The best lawyers aren't found in the big law firms. They're found in the stories of those who left. Hello, listeners and viewers of the Sell Life podcast. I have an interesting guest today. Not a lawyer, but don't hold that against him. I certainly won't. But Chris White of the Now Group. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Lofty, thanks for having me. And it's rare to be said, don't hold it against him for not being a lawyer. I always thought it was the other way around. I don't know.
It is, and that's what I tell the lawyers. But obviously, a lot of our listeners are lawyers. But Chris, tell me a bit about, I guess, how we met on LinkedIn, but your group, the Now Group, what it's all about.
So the Now Group essentially is, we used to say it was a networking system with masterminds in it, but actually what's going to naturally come into the chat today, mate, is we're going to pivot next year and become a network of masterminds rather than network with masterminds in it. And the relevance of that being that I'm seeing a big drift and a good solid bit of feedback from a lot of people that I'm talking to throughout 3.5 out of 5, I'd say, who are looking to network in smaller groups or create clear partnerships. And they realize that that means they need to be networked and connected in smaller groups. So at Now Group, we're kind of moving to really put that front and center in our network. So what does that mean for people is basically networking for too long has been really superficial. Mm-hmm. It's been about chucking people in a room together, like maybe 50, 100, whatever amount of people, and hoping something happens. People have become incredibly tired of it. And although it's always given off opportunity, it's always been quite limited to those who are really good at follow-up, really. Yeah. And it's also been limited to those who are perhaps a little bit extroverted, have found that a more comfortable environment. There's just a litany of reasons why that works for a few and not the many. And that's no one's fault, I don't think. I think it's just the way it was and what was engineered. And we're wanting to create something that has both options. You can network with 30 to 50 people in one room, but then you can go and network with 3 to 6 key partners that have been ratified and properly selected strategically so that you can expect and create return together in short time because it makes sense from basic practical standpoint. Put simply, you serve the same people.
Yep. We got the same after. Yeah, well, we've got a big thing because we obviously when we get the lawyers started, I call it the first module of any course they do is know your numbers better than your accountant. And one of those lessons is a referral foundation formula. And as I tell anyone, if you're just trying to build a business for yourself, so a self-employed lawyer, a sole practitioner, you don't need 1,000 clients. You probably only need between 2 and 5 new matters a month. And that depends. Sometimes you might just need 5 clients and then you're set because you're a fractional GC or something. But I go, let's look at if we find 4 or 5 people, and this was just through years and years of experience, and they send you 1 matter each a month. So that's an actual referral partner. It's not someone who, oh yeah, they're a referral partner. How often do they send work? I don't know. Once 2 years ago. Okay, yeah. So it's not really a relationship you've got. So let's build a relationship with. It's interesting when you said those numbers because I'm like, that's pretty much nearly every lawyer. Having me and Courtney have worked with hundreds now. It comes down to usually 5 relationships. And then I go, can you keep 5 people happy? You don't have to be the best networker. You don't have to be at every networking event. You don't have to be at every conference. Can you keep those 5 people happy? And if you spend more time with them, you might discover, oh, Chris likes the Broncos, or Chris likes, probably not the right one because you're over there in New Zealand. But whatever it is, okay, we can actually get a gift. We can coordinate events. We can have lunch at his favorite restaurant. As you get to know these people deeper, the relationship builds. And for me, I do keep business and friendship separate, but ultimately the people I do business with, we spend a lot of time together. And that's more, I just keep it separate because business is a big chunk of my life. And so I like to do it like that. But I go, these people become ingrained in you because when you're self-employed, it's a lifestyle. And so if you can build that strong network, have you guys sort of come to that after a few years of trying different things?
Yes and no. There's an element of like member feedback, just watching what members do and what works. And like, so when I came into our group, I'd been networking for maybe 5 or 6 years. And in other groups, there are these clusters of people that do better than others. And I always wondered why. And from the very early days, we were like, oh, okay, so that's what happens and what works really well. So you'll get these little groups. A really classic one is like a property focused group in a local networking group. They tend to go absolutely massive guns. And then there's, 30 in that group, say 20 to 30 in that group. And there's a Pareto distribution, the classic sort of 10%, 2, 3, 4 people maybe are actually creating 90% of the referred business. And then everybody else is like, what's happening here? And then you've got some stats that support that. Like somebody joins a group in year 1 is about 60% likely to leave in most of those style of groups. Like that's the general rule of thumb, certainly New Zealand and Aussie. So the question is, why is that? And there's a whole bunch of answers, but one of them certainly is there's not enough attention paid to who actually matters to you in this room and why. And how do we then systematize the relationship building process? Now, you can't system out dislike. You can't really get round poor resonance. If resonance isn't there, then it ain't going to work. So what you talked about before, mate, like the Broncos, like what you're really talking about is where's our, like I call it networking chemistry, where's our magic bit of, what can we pour on this as a catalyst or as an what's that word? An expectorant that is going to add energy to the relationship early. What's going to take us over that hump and get us to trust faster? And there's answers like, oh, we've both got young kids, or we've both got a clear set of values, like I want a lifestyle business so I can go on holiday in Bali a lot. Like, politically, I'm a massive fan of Donald Trump. If you find those people, right, they're quite rare. So you might want to keep them around if it suits you. And I'm not picking that particular thing for any particular reason. But sort of, but what I'm saying is if you can establish a values alignment early, that adds a magic that you don't even have to control for. It takes things up a notch. It's beautiful, right? So what we've done is we've actually, in our onboarding process, we've got 10 questions, and we're adding these elements in more and more and more to create not just business complementarity, but values alignment and vision alignment and things like that. So what that means in plain English is there's a better chance you're going to have that alignment, right? Now, your network is cool, much like mine, that you've got quite a particular avatar. So, in fact, you've definitely got a very particular niche avatar, right? Plain English, you serve a particular type of person. And we're the same, but a bit broader than yourself, right? So, but what that also means, mate, and you've already identified it. In fact, your whole sort of messaging is centered around this idea of being a self-employed lawyer takes a certain set of traits and takes courage. It takes, willing to step out on your own and some sort of motivational framework to do it. And you talk about this a lot in your content, but what you're really also really touching on there is values that mean your people are naturally going to come into a level of alignment. So what's exciting about that is you've kind of qualified a control to some degree for that magic formula, that bit of chemistry, that little bit of expectorant, if you will, that you can throw on to get things really burning and catalyzed and moving in the right direction. You've controlled for chemistry, if you will. So we do the same. And the importance of that being is if you've got that right at the front end, at the point of entry like you do, then you've already created some cool odds in your favor. Then it's like, okay, let's back that up practically. Where's the strategic overlap here? Let's say you've got a commercial lawyer, you've got, a family lawyer, you've got an ex-lawyer, you've got your different sectors within the sector. Where do they naturally refer? Like, where there's going to be some that refer to each other really, really easily. They're a natural mastermind right from the get-go, so I'm sure you've figured this out in your community, or you're on the way there. And that is now you've taken care of the heart because they're all on a similar journey. Now let's take care of the heads, and we're really starting to cover off what people need taken care of, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, and my experience, and I guess because I was at Taylor Rose before this, which was a couple of hundred lawyers, and we're now working with an even bigger organization, and we're implementing our ideas and tactics and everything. And I realized, yes, you do see the instant overlap, and sometimes it's just giving them it's pretty much almost the script, I would say. Like in the organization at Taylor Rose, I said between family lawyers, and conveyances, there's two questions that would probably be worth tens of millions of dollars to this organization at the end of a matter. And that's, have you had your will updated, or do you have a property transaction happening in 6 months? Now, I liken it to when McDonald's came out with the phrase, do you want fries with that?
Yeah, sure.
Those scripts, and it's giving them literally the words of, you can ask this. I don't want to be salesy. I said, that's not salesy. That's solution focused. And that's obviously, we're called sell. We're trying to show people that selling is not like, I like Grant Cardone, but he's a like front and center, old school, push hard. And actually, when you listen to him, he's not really. He's just Wolf of Wall Street style energy. And that's what people are like, that's not me. And me and Courtney have realized 90% of people aren't that. And so I'm obviously extroverted, and clearly I'm on videos everywhere. That's how you found me. But Courtney's extremely introverted. And so what we're trying to do is give people the tools. It's for the introverts to go, and they're obviously in a networking room. They're honestly the best. They're the ones I like to saddle up with anyway. By giving them the tools and the scripts to say, hey, if we can teach you these scripts, these sales things, do you realize how vast your network could be? And naturally, as I say, the best way to get referrals is to give them. Those quiet people are more confident selling someone else to say, well, I know that family lawyer is the best. And naturally,
they're more motivated.
Lawyer comes back. Yeah.
So one of the interesting things is, so my background is in health and wellness, and I was lucky enough to go through a system that allows you to basically take a bunch of measurements of somebody, look and get 60 plus data points from their medical history, genetic history, and a whole bunch of information. That's thrown through a machine learning engine, which is becoming an AI, and that essentially can ratify their what they call biotype or health type. And what you find in networking, like saying there's a split between introverts and extroverts is good, like well, it's okay, but what's even better still is going like there's different types of introverts and different types of extroverts. And on one side you've actually got at one end of the spectrum, you've got community builders, and then at the other end, you've got people who tend to focus on their own goals and be more about their purpose. And ultimately, the community builders, they often are attracted to networking groups, and they're really good operators in it because they naturally want to contribute. They have a desire, like their literal modus operandi, their raison d'etre, their reason for being is to contribute to a tribal community. That's what they want to do. So, but the funny thing is, and 50% of those, very roughly speaking, will be introverts. The other 50% will be hard out extroverts. Yeah. But they are still service oriented at the heart of them. So and tribal oriented. And they actually find it very hard to put themselves first. They're far more likely, and to be really specific, mate, they're looking for a thing called prolactin, right? And prolactin is a hormone that's associated with essentially generating milk for babies, right? Yeah. Right. But it's ultimately what it actually does behaviorally is it makes you want to give. It makes you selfless. It makes you focus on others. So the relevance of that being, and what the lens that I wear when I see different types of people is, the truth is anyone can function really well in networking, but you have to hack who they are and speak to that, speak their language, as you would say, to really understand what motivational framework will drive them to network effectively. So for the purpose-oriented, is strategic. They're naturally strategic. And if you can help them see how, building a team of partners around you that you reciprocate with will ultimately have great results for your purpose, they'll invest the time, the energy, and the focus. Then you've got, the extroverts who are ultimately very connection-oriented, and they like people being around, so they just enjoy being in the room with them. So then you need to give them a framework of if you want people to keep being in the room with you, then show up for them in ways like that. And they're often very proactive and quite forward and ultimately willing to go go out there and put themselves out there for other people. And then you've got these tribal oriented types, also extroverted, but they're very much service focused, so they'll naturally just look after everybody. It's not givers gain, it's simply they want to give, like they want to make sure they're energized by giving, like literally, I mean that physiologically. So that's your extrovert spectrum, right? So they've all got reasons to network and do it well, and they're driven by that, to some degree. And then actually at one end, really, I've kind of missed one out a bit, because One of them is like a hard out winner, just wants to win everything, wants adventure, excitement, wants to win everything. And then you've actually got an introvert who's more purpose focused. And then we move around the introverts. But you come wholesale back to contribution to a group is their driver. Yep. So that's the general spectrum, a 360-degree circle, if you will. All of them could be great networkers for different reasons. So the introverts, one of the natural predisposition of being an introvert means that you like talking to one person or 3 or 4 people. That creates high levels of focus and high levels of concentration and empathy in some cases, or in one particular case. So they really get to know, understand, and like being around a smaller group of people. What does that mean in practice? It means that they're going to do really well in groups of 3 to 6, where they've had 3 to 6 months to get to know and actually really understand each other, have a lot of information on one another. So that, with all that in mind, it's like the introvert's strength, and you already spoke to it, is actually the depth of connection and really being willing to hear a lot about one another and get to know one another. And they'll feel way more comfortable after a process of time, and some time has been committed to that. Then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got these extroverts who, with a little bit of self-awareness, are ultimately just wanting to maximize the relationship. So they're always looking to maximize the relationship. So essentially, there's a strength in everyone when it comes to networking. They just need to identify it. And oftentimes we oversimplify it. We go, networking's great for extroverts, or we say introverts do better in this room, or we oversimplify it. But actually, we can actually go a little bit further and be a bit more precise and practically turn that into actions, approaches, choices that mean they're going to win in their networking environments, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, and it's amazing. And look, it comes, for me, it's down to the communication level, because that's the only reason for me, if you go into a room and you don't come out with new opportunities, new ideas, and new colleagues or referral partners, is something, it's on you 100%, unless there is something medically wrong. Like, for example, our son cannot speak. He can't verbalize. He's non-verbal. Now but if someone spends enough time with him, like Court especially has done, and then I've by extension, but I haven't spent as much time as her, but she can read him. She knows exactly what he's saying, what he's wanting to communicate. So Corby, weirdly, can still network even without the words. And so that's what, when I'm listening to you, I'm like, if people are just, I guess that's maybe why I have such a heart for the introvert, because I know that introvert is going to be more patient. And in my experience, I'm extremely patient with people, because I know down to that level of he can't actually verbalize. So anyone who can verbalize, they may only still be at like a level 3 verbalization. So I go, but if we give them some patience, they become, and I've found like they're very loyal. Because you gave them that extra 30 seconds. And it sounds like that's what you're saying when you're in the room. Have you got any tricks of how do you know early on? Is there a question or something to know, okay, this person's here for business, and I'm like, I can pick it quickly and I go, sweet. Like it's probably become my default that most people I just assume are there to say what's in it for me. And so I lead with that. But maybe that's because I've been a salesman so long. I'm always trying to go, let's build the trust quick, because once the trust is quick, then we can get down to business, which is how do we both profit. Have you got any questions or anything that you go, this is how you can quickly get a read of someone to go, this is how you need to approach it? It's not to like change who you are, but it's probably to change the words and the questions and how you'll interact in that little networking room you're in.
Oh, I mean, look, there are some things that you can ask, there's some things you can do, but really, I think what you're really starting to touch on is a really important conversation, and one that is always on my mind is in bias in communication. So basically, we don't tend to talk to other people; we tend to talk to ourselves. If that makes sense. So we generally communicate from our perceptual frame, from our experiences, from our predisposition, right? And so it's very difficult to overcome that, and I'm almost reluctant to ask people to, because it's really hard to do, purely because like it's so hard to, the reality is about 15% of us are self-aware, and the rest of us have to work at it. It doesn't act, like the evidence suggests it doesn't come that naturally to humanity to be all that self-aware. So to be able to even see your bias is difficult. So so I'm a little bit wary of that. But what I would say is this is my position on it is you almost can't go wrong if you ask honest questions.
Yeah.
So questions without agenda. If you can ask honest questions until someone's comfortable and they feel heard, then you can usually build a relationship. The only caveat I would say with that is keep an eye, because people will tell you if they've had enough of being questioned, right? Because believe it or not, that can happen, and it does all the time. Like, but I think if you can ask honest questions that have no agenda, then you can build relationships, because it's so rare. And I think, like you mentioned about you're expecting people to want to understand what's in it for them. Only to know that you have to ask questions, and and look, people naturally reciprocate, right? Like they just do. Like most people will naturally reciprocate to a point. So if you ask enough questions and they're in the right humor, you're gonna end up in a conversation rather than just asking, rather than interrogation, if you will, mate. So yeah, that's my take on it. If I was going to pick questions to ask, I mean, look, there's a lady called Vanessa Van Edwards, and she's done quite a few of the big podcasts, Diary of a CEO, Jordan Peterson, different things like that. And she's an expert in communication, absolute brilliant person to listen to when it comes to comms. And she talked about, in first impressions, trying to help people access a healthy or a wanted hormone. So the big three might be oxytocin, connection, dopamine, purpose, achievement, anticipation of reward is another way of saying it. And for some, a little bit of adrenaline could be ideal, but it's going to be difficult to know who those are. Not everyone wants adrenaline, but some really want it, right? So, yeah, well, that's right. Extroverts, a good rule of thumb is an extrovert will like a bit of excitement. So if you've got someone who's, unless you can see a blush as they do it, a blush might tell you they're actually introverted and they're compensating or overcompensating. Hard to read that for some. Some will be naturals at it, but for some that'd be hard to read. But if you feel an introvert but see an extrovert, then anything to get them into serotonin, which is help them feel at ease, and that's ultimately get them talking about something familiar, deeply familiar.
Yep.
Right. So we got our big three, right? Serotonin, dopamine, and an oxytocin. So if you can't generate that via your interaction, say you just met someone, it's unlikely you're going to be able to initiate serotonin. If you get them talking about things they love, they'll enter into connection. And serotonin. Yeah.
Here's what Courtney tells me all the time, and then because they're in my presence and I'm the one who prompted the question, which led to the words that came out of their mouth, which then led to the body releasing that hormone, then that positive experience is connected with you. But as you said, it can go negative as well if
you
a
get
stressful
it wrong.
situation. The opposite.
Exactly.
Cortisol and those sorts of levels can be associated just as quickly.
Precisely. And look, it begins with subtleties. Like you're initially you're just creating an association, but what you're really doing is putting them in the moment in a place that they're comfortable. And you remember there's this old adage in sales, in business that you'll be familiar with, mate, of people remember the way you make them feel.
Yep.
So if you focus on that, so when we go into conversations, someone like yourself, you think about the value you can add. Well, actually, the first point of value is make them feel good.
Yep.
Simple rule of thumb, so easily forgotten. But what does it do? It takes you out of your bias, right? So you stop thinking about, like, how would I want to feel right now? Like, and just give someone something in the shortest time frame, if that makes sense.
Yep. Well, no, and it's been, I guess my entire looking back on it, career has been, I think, giving people space to almost in the conversations with me. What I like is discover who you are, because I genuinely just like to get to know people, because as I said, I think everyone has a unique story and a unique voice to share with the world, because fundamentally they do. Science whether you're religious or not religious, fundamentally every individual is a different genetic strain. So they do have a unique set of views for the world. And from what I've seen, it is tried the systems, this is a bigger question, but our society almost crushes that individual voice to say, and it's the Robin Williams Dead Poets Society, but it's not that you're afraid of like what people will say to you. It's that you're afraid of how big and how bright you can burn. And that's what I love, that moment when you talk to people and you give them the space to hear them and say, that's amazing, or that's unusual, or that's unique. And I see it all the time when I deal with people, and you can see that unlock, like, and I'm like, how, it baffles me, because I'm like, why don't people just take an extra 5 minutes in relationships? Because that extra 5 minutes at a networking event, even on a digital call, we're even noticing, which was my next question for you, digital's different, but taking that extra 5 minutes to let them articulate themselves, I think automatically releases the good hormones, the good drugs. And then that's looking at it purely from the sales perspective. That's associated with you and whatever brand is behind you. And therefore, I think Hormozy talks about it, you have a little bit of influence because they trusted you to have the conversation, looking at it like breaking it down and having a conversation with you. And for this example, Cell was positive and made me feel good. Therefore, becoming a member of Cell or becoming a member of Now, weirdly, I want to chase that feeling. And so maybe I should do it. Like it's fascinating breaking down the science to see how it's working. My question on the digital is, have you noticed, because I know you guys do digital networking as well, as do we haven't had an in-person thing yet. We will do it, but are you seeing that you can have the same, not entirely 100% depth of experience, but can people connect, build trust, and build some strong relationships digitally?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm living proof of it. For starters, I would say this, mate. I actually think it's a better medium for it, and I. It's funny that you asked that today, because I had a conversation with my AI on Thursday, and I updated AI on my strategy for next year, and I updated on why it's my strategy for next year. I won't go into all that now, but what came out of the conversation was, I've been pussyfooting around, excuse my French or my terminology there, my phraseology, what we're really trying to create with Now Group. Like, and to be honest, it's been an evolution. So it's not just, not speaking up properly, but it's also partly about kind of aware of what people need, and also just how much we're catering to that, and what the hell it is, practically speaking, right?
Yep.
With all that as context, I had a conversation with my AI, and basically what came out of it was, I actually think there's no such thing as remote networking. So when you talk to people, there's this sense or this certainty, this kind of complete conviction that being in the room with people is better than being online, right? I don't get it. I'm an in-the-room person. I'm an extrovert. I can feel people's emotions very quickly in a room, and that helps me feel more positioned, more confident, and more able to empathize, and then meet them where they're at and talk to them in a way that they need to be talked to. I think that we've convinced ourselves that is so much superior, because actually we're not good in this environment, i.e. over the Zoom, over the Google, whatever you want to call it, in the webinar, you are not familiar. Like when you grew up, Jason, mate, like you saw mum and dad interacting with XYZ, Auntie Pan, Uncle John or whatever, and you were down the pub or at the football game or whatever, and you saw adults interacting, and you were absorbing all of that information. Then in business, maybe you're watching other people in the room and absorbing that information. From below 7, show me the man at 7 and I'll show you, or show me the kid at 7, I'll show you the man. Before 7, you're having all of this experience where you're absorbing other people's techniques, words, positioning, body language, on how to interact in person. We did not have that for Zoom when we were kids, right? So there's a skill set that we were just given through osmosis, through diffusion, that we don't have for this environment. So that means we have no skill set innately for this environment, right? What if we actually did? What if we actually asked ourselves, what does it take to connect online? What are the processes? What are the habits? What are the techniques? What are the words? What are the questions? You ask the right question. Like, there are questions you can ask that will get you further with people than how's the weather where you are, you know? So going back to what we were saying, right, is people remember how you make them feel. So to take all that and put it together, yes, you can create whatever kind of connectivity you want online. And here's why, because there's less distractions and you have to make the effort. Like, you're already on the back foot, right? But you're competing, if you will, against the other 50 meetings they're going to have this month, or 150, whatever it might be, online, with people who are crap at it, because everybody's crap at it, right?
Yep.
So if you show up online with a playbook on how do I actually invoke feelings, how do I create resonance in the room, how do I open the door to a deeper connection quickly with those who can tolerate it, or at the pace of the other person, whatever that is, then if I ask myself, how do I do it? And you had an answer, you've got an answer from somewhere, could it be done? My answer is unequivocally, yeah, it can be done. And I'd actually argue that in some sense, you can avoid the bad habits we've created in the cafe, you know, with the phone, with the, you know, like, this can actually be a more intense medium if it's properly navigated.
Well, and I can't wholeheartedly agree. Obviously, we're both doing digital networking, but I always thought it's in the room, it's in the room, it's in the room. Then I took a job where I got to work from home, and I realized, I was doing 7 or 8 interviews with lawyers every single day, just smashing them out. But I was more myself because I was literally at home, meters away from the 2 people who mean the most to me. So I was more settled, more relaxed, more felt safer, so I could open up. And then most of the lawyers we've dealt with have never met me in person. We've never shook hands. However, I know when we meet, I feel 100% I know them, and I think they feel the same way about me. And so the last 2 years for me, I was blown away at, I always thought in person is, and I tell people to this day, 7% words, 31% tonality, 55% body language. I go, it's not all there, but like, you can see me moving my hands, you can see me smiling, you can get a lot of it digitally. But importantly, if you're feeling more secure and safe, and then the facilitator, and this is where Courtney's unbelievably good at coming up with the questions for our group to go, I need to facilitate and sort of be a bit vulnerable and share things and add some humor so everyone else can do that. And then even the order of who we ask the questions of to get that culture in the room or that vibe happening, to then, great, we've been blown away, and we're pretty excited because we're running a pilot program at the moment, actually collecting data on, firstly, all the sales skills and all those things we learned. But lastly, one of the categories is how well do you know the people that you did this program with, having not known them at all 30 days ago or 60 days. It has been uncanny how quickly that particular category, all the categories are going up significantly, so we're happy. But that one for me is like the game changer, because I go, hold on, if we can actually figure this digital networking thing out for lawyers, if we can get lawyers knowing, liking, and trusting each other within 30 days, how big, in terms of business, how big can the referral and things grow from here? It's exciting. So tell me, before we go, the Now Group, what is the plan? And are you guys effectively for businesses just in general? It's any sort of business, not just, obviously we're very niche. We're not even just lawyers. We're only self-employed lawyers. What's your avatar of the kind of business owners you're wanting to work with?
So look, our natural focus at the moment is service businesses, and who are predominantly focused B2B. Like, that is our primary kind of avatar, self-selected, to be honest. We just can see a pathway to serving those people really clearly. So, and we naturally attract them. So it kind of stands to reason that will continue. And it's really, it's just a really ripe group of people to actually reciprocate. Like, it's quite easy for them to do that, and especially with a little bit of strategic help as well, and doing things like you mentioned, the do you want fries with that idea, and systematizing that kind of thing so that people can help each other out. So service businesses is our main avatar. Like, what we're looking to create is people in our mastermind systems, is we're bringing together groups of people who have a similar set of goals, a similar set of challenges, and a very strong overlap in terms of who they serve.
Yeah.
And there's complementarity in what they deliver. So in plain English, somebody works on you with this particular discipline, marketing, say, and someone else on IT, someone else on legal, etc., etc. But ultimately, at the other end of the other side of the Zoom screen is somebody who each of you can look after in different ways throughout their business journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're bringing together these small cohorts that network in smaller groups, and then we come together as a large group with all the groups, mixing in at events as well. So we've got our whole network events, and then we've got our specialized events for these client-oriented, naturally aligned groups of people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for you, would you say it's sort of people who have started some network and tried some different things, figured out what they like and what they don't like about all the things that we all try the first year? We all try the BNI, we all try the Chamber of Commerce, we all try and I tell anyone, I don't have anything against those things. You need to try what works, and some things will work for you long term, some things won't. But would you say it's people who are knowing they've kind of figured out themselves as a networker almost? Is that when they're ready for you, or are you looking for the beginners who are still trying to figure it out?
Honestly, from the networking perspective, I think both work really well. We've got networkers who are tired of the old way, and like the kind of, it's all about numbers. It's all about going to 50 events a week and speak to as many people as possible, and kind of that sort of, what we call the whale strategy, where you're just trying to grab all the krill and sift out. You're grabbing all the water with the krill and then sifting out the krill, kind of thing, So sifting out where the food's coming from. Whereas, so that's the old way of thinking. And the people who've done that got tired of it. They really suit our group. But then at the other end of the spectrum, we've got the freshies who don't have bad habits, and they make for good additions too, because we offer quite a lot of content on helping them build better ways of approaching networking and then systematizing the networking. So we serve both. The people at the other end of the spectrum, oftentimes they know how to network, but we soon find out that there's a lot of things they could do better as well.
Bad habits, yep.
Exactly. And just know, a simple example, mate, is like I've spoke to a couple of business owners this week who've got 20 plus years in business, and they still do things. An example might be go to an event and not actually get people to do 1, 2, or 3 things that mean there's a nurture sequence that follows. And this is super common in networking. I mean, it's rolled out on LinkedIn all the time, the stats of the efficacy of a networking event, and the reality is not very high. Literally 9 times out of 10, the biggest beneficiary of a networking event is the barman. That's just the data. That's what the data suggests. And everybody else gets a few business cards and never follows up. So we're encouraging people that do the events by all means, or do small events, whatever works for you. But what's your actual system? Like, how are you going to turn that time into actual results? And actually, if you think about it long enough, you realize that you don't need to be going to events with hundreds of people. And if you do, you need a real clear sense of who it is you want to follow up with, and prioritize that and make it happen. And otherwise, it seems to me like people do event after event, hours and hours and hours of investment, and it can amount to very, very little. We don't want that for people. We don't think it's necessary. We don't think people can tolerate it anymore. And it annoys me because I think of networking very differently to how it's been positioned in the market, or the definition that people have is turn out to events and have a chat. And it's it's a little more than that. Like, a network is about the passage of at least information, if not value exchange. And a real network has channels that are either little tiny pipes or big open flowing pipes. And to get from the little skinny kind of high resistance pipe to a big open flowing pipe of value and information, you need nurture, you need investment, you need trust, you need value. Like you need all these brilliant things poured in to just develop that connection. So it becomes a real channel and not just this kind of thready thing that's going to kind of piss around in a couple of weeks' time.
That's wonderful. And I think we're on the same wavelength, which is why we originally met, because the whole point of sell, or one of the points, and we're literally recording this on Google, but for me is to take money away from these tech giants, because I say you don't have to spend advertising to be introduced to clients. Have we forgotten that we all have our own book of people who trust our opinion, who then, if they come to you with a problem to solve, you have an accountant ready to go, which is what you guys are trying to do. You have a lawyer, which is what we're trying to partner now with Sell. You have a lawyer to go. You have someone to do your bookkeeping. You have all these smaller things, down to you have a plumber to take care of your rental properties, because we're all making so much money. We're getting investment properties. We're all growing together. It's so exciting to see where this can go, I guess.
Yeah,
because we're on the same wavelength. And I think people have just forgotten. Tech giants have done the biggest and best propaganda campaign to go, no, you need to pay us to be introduced to someone whose problem you solve. I'm like, no. When did we stop talking to each other to go, hey, do you know someone who solves this problem?
And I think that the real joke of that is, mate, is like most service businesses are selling relationships. And, and those mediums, like the ads mediums, great for products and transactional exchanges. But once you want to move past a transaction into a relationship, then it's people in a room, and trust is the best chemistry. I mentioned earlier on about pouring the expectorant on the relationship. One of the things is a pre-established connection. Like if I introduce you to somebody and those people trust me, they immediately come in from a non-zero start with that person into trust. Right? So it's a warm connection. And that is very difficult to measure, the compounding impact of more of those rather than cold connections, if that makes sense. The other thing I wanted to say, mate, as well, is I mentioned about our shift in strategy and like how we're moving from a network with masterminds to a network of masterminds. And actually, beneath all that is a sense that is still a little bit more magic. When you get people together in a room and there's genuine resonance, genuine connection, a sense of unity, like whatever that might be, it's like, you mentioned about taking on big companies and kind of scoring a win for the little guy, that kind of thing. And we've talked about we're in a great position for that technologically right now. Like it's available to all of us if we are willing to see it, right? That kind of focus, that kind of, single-minded unity principle shared among people. If you get in a room, you set goals together, you share challenges together, you share some blood, sweat and tears, and you actually mean it, there's something that can happen. There isn't 1 + 1. It's 1 and 1 is 11. It's an exponent principle. Like there's going to be more ROI from that than simply, let's say we had 10 people in the room. Let's say they each had 1,000 audience. The strength of that room is not, now we've got 10,000 audience. The strength of that room is kind of an unknown number that's bigger than 10x, if that makes sense. Like, and that's where the magic is. And too often, we get stuck at the transactional, at the low level, at the, it's great to work with them because we could share it. Like it's very, what's the word? There's no real inspiration behind it, no real, belief that working with people with more depth can actually create depth to what you can achieve together. Like that, I don't think it has been well integrated into networking as an idea, as a prospect, as a kind of driver, motivation to do it. Like, whereas actually I think that when you talk to people, they want to be in a room with people they resonate with. And that's not because it feels nice, it's because it works better, as well. And they know that intuitively, but we've not been listening to our intuition for so long in so many ways. And I think people are starting to get intolerant of what they don't like doing. They've become more and more intolerant. I think it's because the world's put so much stress in our way in the last 5 years. We've got generally more intolerant. And I think that could be a good thing because it means we're moving towards things that feel right or feel good. And there's something to be said for that, And in networking, it's becoming obvious. That's what people are ready for. They're ready for a deeper connection, a genuine sense that we're moving towards something together. And it's a little bit more than, just know, like, and trust. It's a little bit more than that. It's like we need to understand that everybody's here to pull together.
Yeah. Well, and the one, it was comical almost because I thought this podcast was coming up, but we had networking last week or the week before, 8 or 9 in the room. And I like doing definitions of words, like particularly around sales. Like, what does good service mean to you? What does a good referral mean to you? Because we all say these words, but if we're not on the same page in terms of a contract, what is it? And we went through networking, and everyone in the room, and it's called weekly networking, said how much they hate networking. Courtney was laughing afterwards. She's like, but they're here, and they clearly love here because they keep showing up. And we were like, we are needing to change this definition of what it means
100%.
To someone. And it is one of those things to go, what does it mean to you? Is it showing up and awkwardly sitting there at the bar waiting for someone to talk to you? Or can it be this depth of relationship building? It almost needs a different word. And that's what we're looking around. Is there a better word for it? Or do we try and take that challenge of let's change the definition in terms of our groups, what it means?
100%. One of the things that people don't realize is everything is a network. Everything. Like, if you look at any functional environment, if you look at, say, like an ecosystem, like a jungle or a forest, or whatever, like, you've got a network. And an example within a good network is the mushroom makes the sugars and the roots make the phosphorus, and they exchange, right? And they do that in the dark, right in the down deep, right? And they do it all the time. And that makes the whole forest thrive, And that's what networking is. Whereas what we've done in human, in the human world is we've created this kind of this pseudo facade version of networking that has totally taken the magic out of it and completely actually ignored what it should be. Like, I don't know why that is exactly, but it's just super superficial. I can't exactly explain how that's happened. But I think it's because we've been encouraging people to show up and think with the lowest level of aspiration for what you could achieve in that room. And the funny thing is with people, mate, and I think we talked about this on our last call, is we load a program for the environment. So if the environment says superficial, we load a superficial program, right? And this has been well established in what they call game theory mathematics, where if you extend the distance where the relationship ends, you enhance or increase the altruism, reciprocity. We just naturally do it. So if you know you're going to meet with me next week, next month in 2028, you're loath to pee me off or treat me badly or not reciprocate because you're like, that could cost me because this guy's a bit of a connector. And, like if we're going to be knocking around together for 3 years, I better make sure this relationship works. So what's my point? You turn up in a room and the goal is get a lead now for next month. You've got a time horizon that's right in front of your freaking nose, right? You don't show up as your altruistic self. You show up as your self-centered, in the moment, what can I get out of today's self? I get it. Maybe you're struggling for leads. Maybe you're lacking prospects. Maybe your partners are rubbish. Maybe there's a bunch of reasons why you're that way that are all fair. But you have to lead. You have to move past that. And you have to, the way I hack it in people is say, let's look 5 years in advance. Why not go to a networking group and look for your top 5 to 10 advocates? Focus on those people and build those relationships. Don't say you can't get early wins. You can get early wins. Of course you can. But focus on the biggest potential over the longest time frame for you and the people in the room. And actually really mean it. Like, then see what happens. And what the funny thing is in my experience, the near field wins, they go up too. Like, but it's just a framing, and it's not that clever. It can sound quite clever in a way, but it's not. It's a framing system of what are you actually looking for? What are you tuning your brain to look for, filter for in those early conversations? If it's leads, you've got a problem. If it's a relationship, you've transcended that problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic way to end it there, I think. Best way for people, we'll put this in the show notes, best way for people to get in touch with you.
LinkedIn's a great way, nice and relaxed. You can find me on LinkedIn on my profile there. Just search Chris White and I should pop up. And we've got Now Group logos in my banner there, so you'll know who to look for. And if you want to direct message me for a conversation, I'm always available for a chat when it comes to networking and how we intend on changing people's perception of it.
Yeah. Wonderful. We're going to end it there. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thanks, mate.